G'day and welcome to Beyond Sobriety, a podcast where you'll hear real stories of recovery and resilience come to life. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, your host and fellow journeyer on the road to sobriety. As someone who has walked the path of addiction and found solace in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I understand the challenges and triumphs that come with striving for sobriety. And it's with this understanding and empathy that we've created this podcast. Our purpose here at Beyond Sobriety is simple yet profound: to provide a platform where individuals can share their experience with alcoholism openly and authentically. Through candid conversation, personal narrative, and expert insights, we aim to inspire hope, foster understanding, and offer a beacon of light to those still navigating the shadows of addiction. We'd love for you to be a part of this growing community. If you find value in the stories that you hear today, please consider liking and leaving a comment and sharing this episode with somebody who might benefit from hearing it. Your support will help spread the message of hope and resilience to more people who need it. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, and this is Beyond Sobriety. So we're here with Shana. Shana, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name's Shana. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for 2 years and 8 months.
I forget, because you came in about a year or so after me, I believe.
I think so. I've been sober that long. I've been in AA a little bit longer than that.
Yes. Oh, look, me too. I only count the time I'm sober, though, because it doesn't matter. Can you describe the environment in your house when you were a child towards alcohol?
It's funny, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I remember alcohol was a really big part of culture. And I remember Nan and the other aunties sitting around having Cinzano and lemonade, and the men would be having beer, and I was always surrounded by it. I think I was probably about 15 when I said to Mum, "Can I try Cinzano and lemonade?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." But it had no real effect on me at that time. Later on in my life, my mother's drinking turned from social to alcoholic drinking. I knew my grandfather was an alcoholic. Mum had made that really clear because he never came home till the pub closed, and on Sundays he was in a really bad mood because the pub didn't open on a Sunday at that time. I knew he was an alcoholic. I kind of didn't know what that meant. I just kind of thought, must be a cranky old man, After my brother was born, my mother's drinking became quite destructive to the family environment. That was my first real understanding of what someone with a drinking problem looks like.
So that was when you were in your late teens, was it?
Yes, about 12 she started drinking like that.
So you said it was after your brother was born. Was he so there's quite a large gap between you and your brother?
Yeah, there's 10 years between us two.
Did she ever address her drinking problem?
Yeah, I think, that's why I had a view of AA. I kind of grew up in AA rooms, but Mum would go and she'd become, for want of a better word, the mother I always wanted. She was a great mum, and, saying that, I feel a little bit like a traitor, but she'd become happy, she'd look better, dress better, act better, be more involved in our lives, have a more social life outside the home for herself. But she never kept it up, and I didn't know at the time. It was probably because, my father was of the attitude when she got well, she went into rehabs multiple times, that we don't need that now, you're better now. Yes. And so eventually she would bust. It could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 months, and the longest she ever went sober was 4 years when my daughter was born.
So that continued on in her life for a significant period of time.
Yes, in fact she died in a nursing home, not much older than me. I'm 55, of alcoholic encephalitis. So she had liver failure with fluid in the brain.
Okay, and that's obviously an alcohol-related disease.
It is, yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that. That's terrible. So growing up with that when you're 15, and you obviously started to drink then, did you find that alcohol was an issue for you from the age of 15?
No, so in my teens, I just had a couple of times of when I had access to it, making a fool of myself, having 2 or 3 drinks and, laughing and vomiting through my best friend's back screen door. That was about the extent of it when I was a teen. By the time I was in my late teens, like 18, I was so disgusted with alcohol that I vowed I would never drink alcohol. And in fact, I didn't start drinking alcohol of significance, like routinely. I'm saying I might have had a glass at Christmas, I might have gone out to someone's wedding and had a glass, but I didn't start bringing alcohol into my home until I was in my late 30s.
Your late 30s. Was there anything you think that caused that? Was there something, some life action or a significant event?
Yeah, there was. Look, and this is with a lot of hindsight. I didn't come into AA knowing this. I've always been an addict. So food was my love growing up. Food was my comfort. I was overweight when I was at school and bullied quite a lot. Food was like my secret lover, like I'd get my pocket money and burn a hole in my pocket till I could get a packet of CCs and a cherry ripe, break it up into all different bags, and within an hour I'd eaten every single bag that was supposed to last me a couple of days. I just had a really bad food addiction. So I grew up really overweight and food was my comfort. And when I was stressed, when I was upset, happy, glad, mad, sad, I had food. What changed in my late 30s was I got sick of being overweight. I was at that stage of morbid obesity and I went and had a sleeve gastrectomy. So I couldn't eat anymore. It was really difficult to eat. And I then decided that, I was going to use the opportunity of this sleeve and get really slim. So over 18 months, I lost 90 kilos.
Wow.
But I became addicted to diet and exercise then. So food was out of the picture. And I had the friend of diet, exercise, counting calories and macros and things like that.
Oh, I love that line, half measures avail as nothing, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Doesn't matter.
We are people of extremes.
Yep. I always have needed something to be in control of. So as a child, I felt helpless over my mother's alcoholism, but I could get a packet of Tim Tams and go in my bedroom and somehow I was okay. When I was really big and I started on this journey of weight loss, nothing felt as good as thin does. So I pushed myself for that. I pushed myself because I believed at that time that all of my problems stemmed from weight. And if only I was normal weighted, people would love me, they'd respect me. I wouldn't feel so vulnerable in a crowd. I'd be okay to stand out because people wouldn't be looking at me going, look at that fatty. I was so self-conscious, and I believe the answer to all of my problems lied in losing weight, but I was incorrect.
It's amazing the lies we tell ourselves. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's food, weight, what we look like, our education, the way we speak, where we grew up. It makes no difference. We tell ourselves this narrative, which amazingly enough, I'm learning after talking to people, everyday people, we create these lies around ourselves, which we believe them to be so true, but they're just not.
Well, they were all my expectations. No one else was putting any expectations on me. And then when I wasn't happy doing that, I did the education thing. I did 2 degrees and 2 postgraduate degrees, higher degrees, over 6 years.
Yep.
Then found the job I thought I'd always wanted, and if I was slim and if I was educated, I'd get. And I still wondered where the happiness was. Where was the happiness? When was it coming? Now I'm skinny and people that didn't talk to me before suddenly want to talk to me. I wasn't happy about that. If you don't want to know me, I'm the same person. Don't, just because I've lost weight. Suddenly things in my life didn't get easier except maybe tying up my shoes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes, and nothing changes if nothing changes. So then I think I went on the next journey of looking for something to make me feel better about myself, and an opportunity arose where a friend I was hanging out with at that time used to like champagne, and so I started having a little bit of champagne, and that's how the journey began.
So how long from that point was it something that became a problem for you?
Look, looking back now, I can see it was pretty quick. I was in denial for a long time. For about 5 or 6 years, I drank. The last 2 years of that drinking was completely out of my control. Early on, it was just something I enjoyed. I had quite a physical job. I'd come home, my back would be a bit sore. I'd be a bit tired, and a couple of glasses of wine made me feel good, and it didn't interfere in any way within the family.
Yeah.
And it was tolerated by the family. But after a while, I realised that I'd come home, and if it wasn't a night I was planning on drinking, I'd be thinking about drinking.
Yeah.
And I'd be in quite a cranky mood with the family because I think, oh, I really wish I had a wine tonight, So that was the first sort of 2 to 3 years. But then one day it just dawned on me that I was waiting for work to finish to go and drink.
Yeah.
And my daughter was saying things to me like, Mum, you drank last night. Why are you drinking again tonight? And I thought you were only going to drink on a Friday and Saturday, but today's Sunday. And I'd find myself saying, well, Sunday's the weekend. And I started seeing that I was making a lot of excuses, oh, Mum, wake up, get off the lounge, you passed out. I'm not passed out, I'm just asleep, leave me alone, I'm so tired, and I started to realise that it wasn't that I wanted a drink, it's that I needed a drink. I couldn't live anymore without a drink.
And that's a fairly big realisation. It took me a long time to get to that point, and that only happened after several times of trying to stop. That I was thinking, I cannot stop by myself. So when you got to that point going, I no longer want to drink, I need a drink, how long did it take you before you reached out for help?
Well, forever, because I tried all of the usual things. So I got a glass and marked it, and my daughter hid the wine and she filled it to the line so that I'd say I only had 2 standard drinks, which is like about 110 mils or something of wine. It's not very much.
Oh, it's nothing.
My glass was about 600 mils, I think, my wine glass at the end.
I'm surprised you're using glasses. I just used it straight out of the bottle.
Oh, look, I have done that. I can't deny it. There was a time when I used to go, this is a funny story, I decided to just buy the little tiny red wines, like the ones you see in gift baskets and things.
Yep.
So I'd go up there, instead of buying a bottle for $10, I'd buy 2 tiny ones, and that was $10. And the guy would say to me, no, like you come up here, you buy 4 of those, you can buy 2 whole bottles with that. Anyway, I kept doing it, and then I thought it would be a great idea if I just bought a box, because then they went down from like $5 each down to $3 each.
Yep.
Put the box of 24 in the garage. That was supposed to last me 12 days, according to my new theory of not drinking too much. I think it lasted 2 days. Then I remember going up there for more, and he said, wow, you're buying more. He said, you love these little ones? And I said, oh, I've got a gift basket a company. I make gift baskets. I'm selling gift baskets, like you see on the internet they've got little bottles of wine and ladies'
Great
things.
excuse.
He goes, great. Can I have a card? Oh, my God. I just wanted to sink into the ground. And after that, every time I saw that guy, I would hide until I was sure I wasn't going to get on his line, because I said to him, I didn't have any on me at the moment. Next time I see you, I'll give you one. And the lies started catching up with me, the hiding of alcohol around the house.
Yeah.
Like when my daughter was, and I put my daughter in a terrible position, making her be a parent and parent me over what I was drinking. I didn't want them to see that I was having more. I was trying to work with them, even though I felt they just wanted to control me. They just wanted to control my fun. They were just fuddy-duddies, And I tried to get round the controls, and, I'd drink a bottle or half a bottle hidden before they got home, and then go, I'm just going to open my wine now. So they'd think I was just having the one. But realistically, 1 whole bottle of wine every day for a female is excessive drinking.
Oh, well, that's it, depending what it is. That's between, 6 to 8 standard drinks.
Well, of course, I'd look for the one that had the more standard drinks in it for the same volume.
Absolutely. We all know. Everybody that's listening to this knows exactly how many standard drinks is in almost every flavour and brand and type of alcohol.
Go for the Tempest too. That's got heaps.
Yeah. Oh, it reminds me of, you spoke about your daughter, and you said that, the things that she had to go through, and, she had to parent you and stuff like that. And, some of the things I feel really bad about is my eldest son, he would have seen a lot of it. My 2 other ones, probably not as much because they're a lot younger, but my oldest one, he saw dad's in the car drinking something, or I tried to drink something that dad was drinking, it tasted funny, or, going to mum, what's happening with this? And, dad's this and that. And when we were alone, I would get angry and I would yell at him, like, you don't talk to mum about me. And, that's something that, he didn't deserve.
No.
And I put that on him. And that's going to be something that I can be the best person I can be now moving forward. And we've got a great relationship, don't get me wrong, but that's something that he's going to remember of his childhood. There was times when dad was weird, and yes, and I just, I guess you hope you don't stuff up your kids too much, because they're going to look after you when you're in the nursing home.
You hope. Well, on that note, that's sort of what led me to AA. I'd had a few incidents where I'd really pushed the envelope and my behaviour was inexcusable. I had yelled and screamed, and I'd just been a total cow to the family, have no recollection of what had happened, and
So you did it in a blackout.
Yeah, and accused them of making it up or exaggerating it, and saying, oh, you guys just don't want me to drink, you don't want me to have any fun, so you always make out that, I'm doing these things that I'm not doing. That was my true belief, and it all catalyst at one time when we went away on a holiday up the North Coast, and we went to the club, and Nicola said, and this was always the thing when we went to a club, they never wanted to go to a club. It was only ever me, because they knew drinks were freely available and that I had no control, and that they had no control over me, more's the point. I got so incredibly drunk, and they were trying to get me out, and I wouldn't go, and they had to get the bouncer to get me out, and then I refused to get in the car with them, go back to the hotel, tried to walk back there, and then said the most terrible things to them, and, woke the whole hotel room up, and sat downstairs drinking a bottle of wine right over a precipice. They were worried I was going to walk the wrong way and die. And they just said the next morning, we can't do this anymore, we're done.
So it was both your husband and your daughter, was it?
Yes.
So they confronted you about your drinking?
Yes, and my son-in-law was there as well, my daughter's fiancé, future son-in-law. They just said, look, we love you, but we just don't think there's any hope for you. You've tried everything. We want you to go to AA, and if you won't do that, we're done.
Would you consider that your rock bottom? What was your rock bottom?
So I went to AA, and I had a lot of preconceived ideas about what AA was and wasn't. And I was such a prideful woman. I walked in the door there, I just didn't want to be there. I was expecting to see older men with unwashed clothes, with no hair done, and, probably women with no teeth. And, this was me. I was thinking That's
exactly what I thought too.
Yeah, I was a successful drinker, I thought. I thought, I don't want to mingle with you people. Like, I don't have what you have. And I walked in, and they called me up, and I said, hi, I'm Shana, I'm an alcoholic. I just burst into tears just because of my pride. I mean, I knew it was true. I'd known for a while that it was true, but I didn't want to say it in front of all those people that I didn't know. So I went home and I cried, and I tried to make step 9 amends to everybody, even though I hadn't even started the program. And for 3 months I stayed in AA, and I white-knuckled it. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't start the steps. I just decided that I don't need all that, because I'm very educated. I have a very powerful position. I've got a lot of staff. I know how to do things. I'm very good at sorting things out. So I'll get in there and, I'll revamp the whole operation, was my thoughts. And I white-knuckled it for 3 months. I stayed sober. And then I go driving home one day, I thought, if I've gone 3 months without drinking, I'm not an alcoholic, because I couldn't do that before. Yeah. So they're wrong about me, because alcoholics can't go 3 months without drinking. So I bought 2 bottles of wine, put them in the cupboard. So still being sneaky about it, I drank one, and I'd hidden the second one, and my daughter knew I was drinking. She knew. I denied it. I lied. One of many, many lies I've told about my drinking. And her and her father confronted me, and I just became abusive. And I went into my office and took my bottle of wine with me and went on to an AA online meeting, and knew some ladies on there. Was just drunk on the meeting, and came back out again. And look, the looks of disappointment on their face after they thought, and I know this disappointment from my own mother, seeing her sober and having her back and just loving having a mother again, and then losing her to alcohol. The pain, I could see it on my daughter's face, the absolute pain. I just lost the plot. I did something I'd never done in my whole drinking career. I got in the car after drinking. I drove around the corner, and I reached down to the phone. They called me. They were terrified, and the phone fell onto the ground from the front seat, and I reached to get it, and I overcorrected, and I smashed into a traffic light. The police came. My daughter and husband and future son-in-law turned up there, and in their pyjamas, and all my face was smashed in. Everything was bleeding. My head, there was glass through all my hair. I remembered everything that happened. I didn't do it in a blackout. I did it through shame. I just wanted to run away from the look on their faces and the disappointment that I'd done it again. And I actually couldn't believe I'd done it again. I said to myself, I'm not an alcoholic, so if I take home wine, why would I take home 2 bottles? Why wouldn't I just take home 1 bottle? There's somewhere inside of me that knew I wouldn't be able to manage drinking again. But I guess when I did get a sponsor, she told me it was the best day of my life, and I wanted to punch her in the nose. It was the best day of my life because it showed me the truth about my drinking. If I could risk someone else's life, risk my own life, I kept thinking about my daughter saying, oh no, my mum's dead, or she was driving drunk and hit a pole. What kind of mother am I? Someone else's child saying my child was killed by a drunk driver. It was just glaring me in the face that I no longer had control of my drinking, that I was kidding myself if I thought I ever had. And that was the catalyst for actually taking AA seriously and working through the program as directed.
So what was the result of that crash?
So I got arrested. Because I was so badly injured, I got taken away in an ambulance. I have a job where you can't have a criminal record. So I had to notify the regulatory body, and there had to be a massive investigation. For me, as the alcoholic, very dramatic. Everything was going to turn out bad. I was going to jail. Everyone was going to know I was a drunk. It was a terrible time, but I needed to experience that level of shame and guilt, and I needed my ego to be smashed down, or I was never going to take AA seriously, So I got 6 months suspended, a 6 month suspended licence. I had to drive with the interlock
the
blower
Yep.
for 2 years, which I don't have anymore. I've passed that 2 years. And I had I didn't get bound over for into any kind of custodial program. I just got a bond which says that I'm not allowed to drink for 2 years.
Yep.
In the end, my job was fine. There was no repercussions and my licence was fine, but I wasn't fine. I'd come to the terrible realisation that I had the same disease as my mother.
Yeah.
It was tough because I had a lot of resentment towards my mother and anger for her being an alcoholic, for what I saw as her ruining my life.
Yeah. It's funny how the people that you resent the most, you end up being so similar to.
Unfortunately, but fortunately, because I honestly believe if I hadn't found the program, I'd never gotten to a point of really understanding that nothing that happened with Mum was ever meant to hurt me. She had a disease. See, I took it because I grew up in an alcoholic family. I'm very Al-Anon, very codependent. I was on Mum. I believe that if I was just a better child, if I was a better daughter, if I vacuumed better, Mum would get better. She wouldn't need to drink. It's because I'm not good enough. And at least I got peace over, I always knew Mum loved me, but I got a lot of peace doing the steps because I realised that I never want to be a bad mother, but I turned out to be one. And I truly understand now that the love of your child, which you think is the most powerful thing in the universe, cannot compare to the absolute carnage in your mind of addiction. It is so much more powerful than anyone you love or care about. And it happens before you've even known it's happened. It's so insidious that you wake up one day and it's like overnight you've switched to a different personality.
In this next section, Shana outlines all the different ways that she used to try and sneak alcohol without her family finding out. I had to pause here and just let you know I have done every single one of what she had said. Sitting there, I couldn't help but smile and remember all the times that I used to try and sneak away and get alcohol and how I'd try and hide it from my family.
It's like overnight you've switched to a different personality. You lie, you cheat, you steal, you drive around corners and your boot clinks from bottles, you're going to hide somewhere. You become some kind of FBI person that can go into Aldi, get $20 out there, or get wine there because it doesn't appear on the statement, or go into Coles and get $20 there so you can go into Liquorland and pay cash. And I spent so much of my private time outside of my working hours manipulating, planning, thinking, dreaming and fantasising about alcohol.
I did want to say you're not a bad mother because you're doing steps to make yourself better. We tell ourselves lies. We create a reality for ourselves which is not true. And that's what leads us to drink, because the reality we create in our own head is not the reality that's there, and we make an excuse for that. And everything you said, I was there going, yes, yes, yes. And then you said, well, look, I became a bad mother. Look, no, you acted poorly. And so did I, and so did a lot of us that are listening to this. But you got off it. And 2 years and 8 months is outstanding, because 2 years and 8 months that you could be there for your daughter and your family, that's a credit, and that's outstanding. And that's why we do this. What was your first time in AA like? Like when you walked through those doors for the first time, you did tell a story that you're anticipating to see people with, missing teeth, scruffiness.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I was at your first meeting, but I do remember you in the early days. And I'd like to think I don't have missing teeth. I'm a reasonably attractive man. So,
well, I met a couple of ladies who came up to me very nicely before and after the meeting, and they were just so loving and so kind. I describe them now, and they laugh when I say this, as a couple of nuns, because that's sort of the look that they had, prim and proper. I looked around at other people, and there was young people, there was elderly or old people. Everyone was dressed appropriately. Everybody had the appropriate number of teeth. But what really shocked me...
counting them at the door.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you can come in. What really shocked me, absolutely shocked me to the core, was when people got up and spoke, the honesty, because I didn't have that. I couldn't tell my best friend, not even my husband, who's also a best friend, but I mean a best female friend, I couldn't tell them the despair that I was in, the constant Groundhog Day of waking up and promising never to do it again, and by 2:00 that resolve had completely disintegrated into a whole repertoire of facts of why I'm allowed to drink. I work hard, I'm this, I'm that, I earn good money, I've had a hard life. It doesn't matter what it was. I could just pull. I've got a whole truckload of scripts there. I just pull out one of the scripts and play it. What I saw was this raw honesty, people talking about vomiting, people talking about wetting the bed, people talking about destroying families, people talking about having their children taken away from them, people talking about drinking on the job. And I was sat there thinking, oh my God, these people, how can they just spit out all this stuff? Because I kept my own counsel. And I can honestly say in AA it took me 12 months to be completely honest about my drinking. My original shares would be like, oh, look, I'm not that bad, but, my family really want me to stop drinking. My family just wanted to come home from their day and not be constantly on edge about whether I was going to make a scene, drop the roast on the floor, have a fight with someone, pass out on the lounge. My daughter used to get up at night, put me to bed like I was a child, and then get up and check on me every hour. She couldn't sleep because she had dreams of me aspirating, vomiting, and or getting up, which happened a couple of times. I fell in the bathroom and woke up in the morning black and blue and didn't know what happened. And that sort of happened in the last sort of year of my drinking off and on. That wasn't every night, but I got to the point where I realised, what is the purpose of this life?
Yeah.
All I do in this life is I get up with remorse, shame, guilt. I've got to go into the kitchen to see what everyone's face looks like to judge how bad my behaviour was the night before. I've got to suck up to try and get back in their good books. And then I go to work, and all day at work I'm thinking, how much longer till I can get to drink, how much longer. I'm short-tempered. I never want to stay back. I never want to do overtime. I can't wait to race there and get the wine on the pretense of we've got no toilet paper, we've got no milk, I've got to buy a salad for dinner, and then getting home and just getting that The problem with that is no one else was feeling it but me. Everyone else was feeling angst, anxiety. Their home life was miserable. My husband didn't have a partner. He didn't have a woman he could talk to. If I made any sexual advances, he wasn't interested, which just made me feel rejected. But who wants to sleep with someone who's a sloppy drunk, who's getting around in a pyjamas with no bra and talking a whole lot of shit, doesn't make any sense? And who wants that in their life?
Yeah.
I was not the woman that he married, and we'd been together. By the stage my drinking got to that part, that sort of time, we'd been together way more than 20-something years. This was not the woman that he was having a relationship with. He didn't know who this woman was. What child wants their mum to come lay in the bed with them and cuddle them only when they're drunk? but the rest of the time doesn't want anything to do with them, hides in their bedroom and get on the phone and talk shit when they're drunk to people on the phone, but can't spend 10 minutes listening to their essay.
Yeah.
I had no time for them. They were just a blocker to my drinking.
It's what it is. I've said this before, but I saw, my family, my job, any other relationship, we're all just obstacles in the way of getting that next drink towards the end. Probably for the last 8 or 9 months, probably a year, it was, you guys are just accessories or things in the way of my life and my goals of desire just to sail away and get drunk somewhere. Hi everyone, I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. This podcast is all about sharing real stories of resilience, recovery and hope. Stories that remind us that we're not alone in this journey. If you'd like to support this work and help us reach more people, there are a few simple ways you can make a difference. Take a moment to like this episode, leave a comment, or share it with someone who you think might benefit from hearing it, whether it's a friend, family member, or somebody in your recovery community. Your support could touch the lives and inspire someone in their road to sobriety. Your stories are important. They remind us that we are not alone and help us all stay sober. What we're doing here creates a space where people can share their experiences, feel understood, and find inspiration to keep moving forward. By supporting the show, you're helping to amplify those voices and ensure that more people who need to find this message can. If you'd like to share your story and be interviewed, please email me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Every journey is unique, and your experience could be exactly what someone needs to hear to find hope, strength, or inspiration. This podcast thrives on real stories from real people, and your voice has the power to make a difference in somebody's life. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect and discuss how your story can be a part of Beyond Sobriety. Thank you for your support. Together we can continue to make a difference. Now, let's get back to the episode. But you mentioned earlier about your daughter said something to you like, you need to go to AA. Nothing else has worked. Did you try anything specifically before this?
The only things I'd ever tried was, controlled drinking, like telling them I was only going to drink Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep.
I wasn't very pleasant to live with while I was trying that. Nothing ever lasted very long. Telling them I was only going to have 2 standard drinks. And then, there'd be I've busted it now and it's Wednesday, so there's no point doing it, because it's coming up on the weekend, so I'll start again on Monday.
Yeah.
They just got tired of all the promises, broken promises. I'll only drink this type of liquor and I'll only have this much. And I'd come up with all these new plans and schemes when they were angry with me.
Yeah.
By the end of it, they didn't even have any hope that it'd work. They'd go, yeah, sure, whatever.
You see, as you describe that, I'm remembering the anxiety that I used to feel when I would try and set myself a goal of not drinking that day. And you'll sit there and you go, I won't do it. And like you said, by 2:00, you'd already made an excuse as to why you would. But just the fear of thinking that I'm not going to drink, it scared the hell out of me.
Oh, look, I didn't want to give up alcohol.
No.
And I think that's why I needed the relapse and the crash and all that. When I first came the first 3 months, I just white-knuckled it because the fear that I had was losing my family.
Yep.
And that was a real genuine fear, and that kept me there for 12 weeks and it kept me sober. It's the longest I'd been sober for 5 years.
Yep.
The fear of that kept me in the room coming back because I had a real genuine fear that I was going to come home and they'd packed up and moved out. And I know in my heart, Michael, even today, that if they packed up and moved out, I can't guarantee what kind of behaviour I have because I'm ultimately a rogue. Gambling's been a bit of my story, as I said. Fasting and exercising's been part of my story. Eating's part of my story. It doesn't matter what it is. It's anything that takes me away from self. I know that the happiness that I have in my life is with and within my family. And so that was my biggest fear that kept me in AA for that first 3 months. But, they say it's a relapse waiting to happen. I was just a relapse waiting to happen.
Yeah. What do they say? Every day you're sober, your addiction is in the garage doing push-ups, just ready to go. That's why I'm scared to death to even think about picking up again because I got no idea where that would leave me. What I love about what you just said about how important your family is. Now, and a couple of people in our group know that I'm going through a fairly significant issue within, I guess, my personal life at the moment, nothing to do with my family, but some major changes within my life at the moment, which is causing me and my family to question a lot of things that we've held true for our entire lives. And yesterday, my wife and I went out to the movies. We watched Moana 2 with the kids. You know, it wasn't as good as Moana 1, spoiler.
Thanks for the
yeah,
advice.
a bit of advice. I wouldn't spend the money to see it at the cinema, but look, the kids liked it. And then afterwards, all the kids and even my wife had a running race to the the popcorn stand or whatever, and they were running and laughing, and it was funny. I can't run because of a recent operation, but I tried to walk quite fast. But I saw that and my heart was filled with joy because I thought everything I love is right here, right now. And even though everything else is falling apart around me and I still feel pain and I still feel a bit of anxiety, I'm just so glad that I don't have to run away from that and that I can still be present enough to see that and to appreciate my family and my children now. Whereas before, I would have just hated that whole thing. I would have been...
torture for me to have a family night out with no drink.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would have been scheming to go, all right, I need to drink this much before. I would have had to go to the toilet about 4 times during the movie, but then I would have probably gone to the toilet, quote unquote, but actually gone to get a drink somewhere or put it in the drink and then made sure no one else could drink it, and I don't have that bondage anymore.
And it is bondage, and I'm going to mention the dreaded word, which I think it's a dreaded word for me when I came into AA and I walked in the door and I saw it up on the wall, the God word. I came in as a card-carrying atheist into AA. What had God ever done for me? I grew up with a very unwell mother in a terrible environment, with a father with bipolar, difficulties with my relationship with my father with his 1950s male parenting style, which didn't fit in with my more modern ways of thinking where women were in society. I saw that word and I thought, oh, here we go. It's some kind of religious thing. It's some kind of cult, and I got a sponsor and I said to my sponsor, I won't ever believe in God. So if you got that right, I won't be doing the step 2 and 3. And in fact, I was so silly that when we'd say the serenity prayer, instead of saying God, I'd go, grant me the serenity. Because I was angry at God. I was angry at a God that I thought didn't exist. So I don't know how that works.
Shana.
I'm very stubborn.
You're so stubborn. I know you reasonably well, and that I'm not surprised by any of that.
No, I'm so stubborn.
But you know what? I love the fact that AA has made you a completely different person from what you were when you were drinking.
Definitely. I think this is more, my husband and my daughter tells me this is my normal personality. However, it's my usual personality but new and improved.
Yeah.
Because I've lost the anger and the resentment from my
Shana 2.0.
life. Yeah, 2.0. I've lost the resentment that I've been carrying around my whole life. The big book talks about the spiritual experience, in Appendix 2. So I was waiting for this, to come down.
Yeah.
And, I thought it had to be like that, and the big book clearly sets out that it's just a change in thinking. And, oh, my gosh, have I had a change in thinking?
Yeah.
From the person that came in here who thought they couldn't survive without alcohol, and the woman that sits here before you today, if you offered me $1 million to pick up a glass of wine with no consequences, I wouldn't do it. Because what AA has given me is the remainder of my life, I have absolute self-knowledge of who I am. I know what is right and wrong, and I live by a set of principles, and I feel like I flow in the world now. My whole life I was that person, swimming behind the boat, trying to catch up, and everyone was on there partying and have a great time, and I could never quite catch up because I was weighted down by resentment, anger, self-pity, self-loathing, and I never felt good enough, I know now that had nothing to do with weight, it had nothing to do with height, it had nothing to do with money or success or fame or jobs. It had to do with the fact that I felt alone. I'm not alone anymore. I have a power greater than myself, so I don't have fear anymore.
Yeah.
Like what you're going through this journey, my answer to that is it is whatever God intends it to be,
Yeah,
and whatever
absolutely.
He intends it to be will be what is best for you. And you just have to trust in that. If you lose faith in that, then you're playing God. If you want to manipulate it, if you want to change it, if you want to create it into something that suits you, then you're playing God. Go with the flow, because wherever God in this journey has led me, like crashing my car and getting arrested, has led me to the peace that I know today. So I no longer fear change. And to fear change is someone who fears God.
Yeah. At the recording of this, my family and I were going through some extreme personal changes in our life. And I have to say the advice that Shana offered was amazing, and I really took it to heart. I want her to know that I actually listened, and it definitely helped me throughout this journey. I was able to pass this on to my wife, and I hope that she was able to feel some peace of knowing that God was in control of the situation, and all our attempts to try and get involved might even be hindering his plans. So sometimes it's better just to sit back, remove the oars from the water, and let the ocean take you where it needs to go. It's a small price to pay, smashing up your car, a little bit of embarrassment at work, but we see that as a be-all and end-all.
Yeah, because it's my reputation.
Exactly. And
what reputation? It's my own expectations of what people think of me. 100%. They're not thinking about me at all. That's what AA's taught me. I think when I walk in a room, people are saying this and thinking that, and if I stand there and if I say that and if I look over there, no one's thinking about me. They're all thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
That's a piece I've found in AA. I no longer have to perform like a monkey for what I think people want me to be. I can just be, and if they want to be around me, they will, and if they don't want to be around me, they won't, and I'm okay with that.
What's one of your high points in sobriety?
Being able to lay down or watch TV and the head is not talking, it's not going, it's not scheming, it's not planning. I'm not getting up 10 times. Being able to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom and coming back and going back to sleep, not having 75 imaginary arguments with people or getting one up on people in my mind, or scheming how I'm going to achieve things, or I'm just at peace. So I'd say a high point is definitely within myself. The high point is a peace. In my family, the high point is seeing, knowing and loving the purpose for which I'm within that family and fully being in that family, not just having a foot in the door.
Yeah.
So listening when they talk, doing what they want to do instead of commanding what we do all the time, letting them be them. Stop trying to control how they look and behave and letting them be themselves. Just the peace around everything that I do today is different.
How did you go with resentments and making amends to your family?
No problem with the immediate family, my daughter, son-in-law and my husband. They're so proud of me, and I hate to say that because I get embarrassed when I say, they give me a gift or something to say, oh, look, you're a year sober or you're 2 years sober or whatever. Because I think, why are you celebrating that I was just a total, I can't swear, can I? I was a total.
I'll beep it out if you do, it's fine.
I was a total cow. Yeah. And, don't reward me for now being a normal, in quotes, person. Both my parents were deceased by the time I got into AA, but I did graveside amends and they were wonderful. For the first time in my life, I was able to tell my parents everything that was in my heart and apologise for, even though they never saw me drinking, the amends was about, I carried with me my whole life certain things about them.
Yep.
So I was able to apologise for my thoughts and feelings, which were totally wrong. They just helped me to feel less and to drink more.
So what would you say the best thing about being sober is?
Just the freedom in my mind. I don't feel, as you described before, you said you were in bondage. I don't feel like I am in bondage over anything. I don't have to get home at a certain time. I don't start getting anxious at a certain time. I don't have to start planning where I'm going to get alcohol. My day, I just go with the flow. I used to be very regimented in everything that I did. I would say just being relieved of the utter hell. It's like living in a dungeon, being an alcoholic for me. It's so dark and it's so horrible, but, I've so much got the syndrome that you get from your captor. I really believe that the alcohol was looking after me. It was keeping me safe, keeping me sane. But the whole time it was really my captor.
Yeah, it's Stockholm Syndrome.
Yes.
That's
I cried to lose alcohol. I cried like a baby, like someone died. I cried to lose alcohol. And it's funny, in 2 years and 8 months, I have no desire, and I haven't had a desire for since maybe 3 months into AA after the initial bust.
Yeah.
I have no desire, no compulsion to drink whatsoever, because I have found the pot of gold that's on the other side of that dungeon. And I was right next to it, and all I had to do was reach out. But I was too scared. And I would say to anybody who's living in that dungeon and scared to reach out, you have no idea what's around that corner for you. So much love and support, a new life, a new version of yourself without fear. And AA is everything to me. The only thing I fear now is losing AA.
What role do the 12 steps play in your ongoing sobriety?
Well, daily I have to remind myself that I'm an alcoholic and that my life is unmanageable, particularly around alcohol. But my life is unmanageable around everything, and I just have to be wary for that coming in, for dieting and, all the things we talked about. I've got to make amends very quickly. Yeah, it's with step 10. So I still have character defects, and I still can get the wrong end of the stick when talking to people, make up things in my mind that they might be thinking or saying and react to those instead of getting the facts.
Yep.
So I might have to make an amends on the spot, doing a nightly inventory, how is my behaviour in the day? Am I going a bit? Because, look, even the last few days I've been a bit down. I've got to look at myself like, did I really want to come here and do this interview? No. And then I say to myself, well, that's why my higher power booked it in, because I've been a bit isolating, and I tend still to isolate just without the bottle in my hand.
Yep.
I still tend to isolate. Nothing's going wrong in my life. Everything's great. But ultimately, I still make expectations. I think that's really what led me to all of my addictions. I had expectation as a child. You're a girl, you have to get a boyfriend, then you have to get engaged, then you have to get married, and then when you're married, you have to have a child, then you have to buy a house. You buy a house, you get a nice car, and you get a good job, and then, have another child, so on and so forth. And I ticked all the boxes, and I got to the very end of the checklist, and I was waiting for the happiness, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it was there, but I was incapable of seeing it because of my disease.
Did you have to have a coming out moment where you told people you're an alcoholic?
No, I've only told my best girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I've told no one at work, and it is still an embarrassment to me. I haven't got past that point of being okay with not being okay or perfect. To a certain extent, I am fearful that people will judge me because I let this happen to me, even though I know as an alcoholic it's a disease. I also know that as someone who had an alcoholic mother, that not everybody views it as addiction as a disease.
Of course.
They view it as you're a scumbag, or you're weak, or you've got no willpower.
It's your own failing. It's your own fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't drink. I mean, even my husband, God love him, loves me like nothing on earth, used to say to me, Shana, just have one or two. I don't understand. Why have you got to push it past that point, He said, just have one or two. He could never understand why I pushed it to the point where I made everybody miserable, particularly myself.
One of the things that one of my other guests stated was that our family, even our partners, husbands, wives, they don't understand.
No.
And we don't want them to understand, because you only understand when you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You can only truly get it when you're in it. And one of the things I struggled with was calling it a disease. For a large part of my psyche, I haven't really analysed it too much, but I sit there and go, look, is it fair to call it a disease? Like, I think of disease, I think of cancer, I think of people with terminal illnesses, and I go, they've done nothing to bring them on themselves. But I guess maybe this is just the internal judgment going, well, no, I was the one who decided to do this. I was the one who decided to start drinking in the first place. Like, there's definitely actions I took to cause the problem.
But did you take those actions? Because, when I look back, I didn't always drink like this, but once I set off the compulsion to drink, I honestly, mentally, physically had absolutely no power over it. And I remember my mother saying this to me, and I just would say, but Mum, when you drink that first drink, you're sober. You're making the decision sober.
Yeah.
I used to say that to her all the time. And to me, that meant that she was making a conscious decision. Having suffered from the disease of alcoholism, it was a conscious decision, sure, but it was not a decision within my control.
No.
Either I drank or I suffered.
Oh, yeah.
Physical and emotional and mentally symptoms. So I drank or I suffered. So it wasn't a decision really for me. It was a compulsion. I had to do it.
Yeah. There's a specific time I remember, and I had the bottle of wine between my legs. I was driving. I drank all the time when I was driving. And it was between my legs, and I was sitting there going, and I was there, I looked at it, I thought, I do not want to drink this. I don't want to do it. And I knew that I had to. And then I also knew that after half this bottle of wine is gone, it will be easier.
Yes.
Before I knew it, like, the first mouthful, it always stings just that little bit. And then after that, it's all gloves are off.
I used to cry sometimes pouring it in the glass because I knew I was a failure. I'd let people down. And here I was. I said I wouldn't drink tonight.
Yeah.
And I was pouring it out. And to see their face when they saw the glass. Or my daughter's got a bit of a PTSD with the drinks cabinet thing, which has the glasses, because it has a magnet. And when I'd open it, they'd go clink. And even today, when I go to get a glass and it goes clink, she looks up. I've never mentioned it to her, but I've always noticed that she's very aware of the noise of that cabinet.
Yeah.
And of course, if I went to that cabinet,
triggers something in her. Yeah.
Yeah. It meant I was getting a wine glass.
So what advice do you have for anybody struggling with alcoholism?
If you don't change something, then nothing is going to change. But the change required to give up alcohol is really hard, and it has to be something really dramatic. It can't just be changing alcohol or changing jobs, because jobs, partners, where you live, the suburb, all that, it doesn't change how you feel about yourself on the inside. If you really want to give up alcohol, you've got to make a drastic change, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to have to be honest, like you've heard today. You're going to have to talk about your character flaws, and you're going to have to be willing to let other people help you. And that was really hard for me, but so worthwhile, because in AA what you'll find is a group of people that truly, truly understand the pain that you're going through and the difficulty of giving up alcohol, and can help you navigate the stress of giving up alcohol. I certainly could never do it alone. I tried and tried and tried, but with AA I was able to do it.
Outstanding. Look, thank you so much for sharing your story. Why don't you lead us out in the Serenity Prayer?
Sure. Thank you, Michael, for having me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you so much.
Oh, good. That was great.
Thank you for joining us today on Beyond Sobriety. Just before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a gentle reminder. If you happen to recognise anyone who shared their story on this podcast, I urge you to respect their anonymity and privacy. Let's create a safe space where individuals can feel empowered to share their experience without fear of judgment or disclosure. And if you found today's episode helpful or inspiring, I encourage you to share Beyond Sobriety with somebody who might benefit from it. Together we can spread awareness, support and hope to those still struggling with alcohol addiction. Remember, your feedback is invaluable to us. If you have any thoughts, suggestions or stories you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay strong, stay sober, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. I'm Michael, and I'm an alcoholic.